Picture this: a team at odds, tension thick in the air. All it takes is a small disagreement. But what if there was a way to not only resolve these conflicts, but to actually grow and become more productive because of them? For that, we need a leadership superpower: mediation. Blindly ignoring conflicts or forcing your way to a solution make things worse. Mediation, on the other hand, is about listening, understanding where people are coming from, and identifying points of convergence. It's not about coming out on top, it's about finding a solution while also developing people, building a cohesive team, and improving communication and trust. Join Anja and me as we venture into the mediation world and discover how it can make you a better leader.
Welcome back. We're excited to be here. And Armando, how are you feeling? I'm glad to see you.
Good to see you again, Anja. Doing better after a long break. It was, oh my goodness, several weeks. I was in Mexico traveling, doing some exploring, and then the holidays, Christmas, and then I was sick. So it's been a long break, but I'm glad to be back. Good to see you again.
Great, good to see you too. And I'm glad you're back, and especially glad you're not sick anymore.
Yeah.
You're feeling.
Yeah, thank you.
So today you prepared a topic for us. It's about mediation. And I'm excited to hear about it. We're in our series Leadership Superpowers. So are you ready to take the stage, Armando?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a very nice new series that we have prepared. We're focusing this year on leadership, and everyone in one sense or another is a leader. So this is a new series that we've been cooking and talking about even since the very end of last year. Remember, so to our viewers, if you go back in our timeline, we spoke about that. I'm going to leave the link here. And whether you are a family leader, whether you are in corporation, whether you are in a small team, everyone is a leader. I mean, even leaders of our own lives, right? So this is a series that we have prepared for everyone, and I hope you enjoy. And what we're going to talk, about every week about a different topic, a different superpower. We call that superpowers because leaders face challenges, and there are many. If we do a little search, we there are so many communication, expectations, leading, um, delegating, and so much more. Anya, in your case, before I get into it really quick, I mean, what have you experienced as a leader and as part of a team? What are your main challenges that you have encountered in life?
I think one of the main challenges I've encountered is communication. I would say it's communication. Especially in teams when you don't communicate properly, or things are cooking up in you and you can't really talk to your team members about it. That leads to a lot of challenges. And also communicating, the leader has to communicate to the team, but how much do you communicate? Those are a lot of questions that are difficult. And yeah, I think that's one of the main challenges. But I mean, there are so many, like you said. I just picked one right now. Probably if we talk about it a little bit more, there will be, oh, this one too, and this one too.
That's right. That's right.
So that's probably one of the things that just is top of my head, because I experienced it in the last few months, but I mean, there is so much. It's also, I think, health is very, very important, and
Mm,
self-care. I
mhm,
don't like the word self-care, but I think it's important that we get to relax too, and that we take care of our teams, of our team members, that as a leader, you take care of your team members, but
mhm,
as a leader, also as a leader of the family, you have to take care of your health. You have to be, yeah, you have to look after yourself, because
mhm.
it doesn't work out if you're constantly feeling overwhelmed and
Mm.
sick.
Yeah,
So those are two things I would say.
yeah.
What would you say?
Well, communication is one of them, definitely. I mean, I think communication is at the top of many, and that's it's also one of the main challenges that I have experienced as a leader, and also, to be a good communicator, and but also as in being form in being part of a team,
Mhm,
in leaders that have lead me in life. Communication is a huge one, yeah. And I think one of the other big challenges that leaders face is the ability to take care. You mentioned self-care, and what I have experienced, one of the biggest is the ability for leaders to take care of their team.
mhm,
To not to be the boss, and to command and move people, treat people like cattle, do this, go here, get this, and this and that, right? And and that's a huge one, I think. I think the first priority of a leader is to take care of your people. So that is one. I mean, I don't know if many people do not know how to do it. They never learn how to be a good leader in that sense, to take care of your people. But I think definitely the superpowers, as we have called them, the intention of these series is to precisely to equip, to inspire those watching us to do something about it. If you notice that you are lacking abilities, that you lack these skills, this is your chance. This is your chance to just to be inspired, and do something about it. Because if you are not a good communicator, you can be a good communicator. If you cannot take care of yourself or take care of others, you can be. So this is intention behind this new series. And today, the one, to get it right into it, Anya, if you allow me to, we decided to talk about mediation. I mean, this is a huge topic, because we all have been there at some point or another, right? That subtle tension in the air, the unspoken disagreements, or sometimes the not so subtle feuds that can easily affect uh, work performance, team morale, and so on and so forth. So, as managers, and as I said at the beginning, everyone is a manager, a leader, in one way or another. One of the biggest challenges we face is to navigate these conflicts and to keep the team moving forward. But let's be realistic, and I know people watching right now will agree with us that workplace workplace conflicts come in all shapes and forms, just as the people we work with. They can be conflicts, regarding project goals, incompatible work attitudes, expectations, or even sometimes something as simple as the temperature in the office. And I can remember of a few cases regarding room temperature. I mean, that's a huge one, in teams. But I right now I recall one incident where two of my colleagues, both of them highly skilled people in their fields, they embroil in a weeks long heated debate over how to best manage their respective teams. Uh, and so it wasn't about really who was right or wrong, although If you ask me, I believe that one of the approaches was better than the other. So that's just my subjective mind. But they really, their work styles were simply incompatible. They clash, all the time, and they were unable to find common ground, to find to find for the difference, right? So that the situation grew increasingly uncomfortable for everyone. Whenever the two were in the same room, the tension, you could almost cut the tension with a knife, right? So in that sense, the team's morale suffered, and suffered a lot. At the end, the conflict escalated, grew to the point, where one of them decided to resign, just to look for a new job and leave us. So why did it reach that breaking point? If you ask me, in my view, when I look back and reassess the situation, I think that our team leader failed to mediate effectively, if at all, right, between them. And worse than that, she took sides, right? She wasn't, how do you call that, unbiased, right? And often, in my view, exhibited a two-faced approach, right? Backstabbing, talking behind their backs and things like that, and that just exacerbated the issue in general. So it was a really, really bad situation. As as you already know, conflict resolution, to bring my point, to land with my point, is that conflict resolution is one of the many leadership challenges we all face, right? How would you handle that situation? Might be a question that I throw out there for all of you. How would you have handled with that situation? Often the first mistake leaders make is to ignore the problem, right? In the hope that it will go away on its own. And sometimes leaders pick sides, like I just told you, right? They just pick one side and try, and they find a favorite person or a favorite argument, or they have that bias, right? Or in the other cases, they try to force a quick solution without attacking the problem at the core. But that rarely solves the underlying issue, does it? Right? Instead, what happens is that it creates further divides, and that's where mediation. That's our topic, right? That's where mediation comes in as a powerful tool or process that can be employed by leaders of all kinds, right? All kind of leaders to help their family or their team or their organization, right? Mediation can be seen as uh, an attempt to find the middle ground, right? As something that helps people feel, number one, understood. That's very important. If people don't feel understood and heard, uh, there will be no healing or solution, right? So mediation is about facilitating the conversation, and focusing on the solution, not on who is guilty. That's not the point of mediation. It's not about it's not about winning or losing. It's about finding, like I said a couple of minutes ago, it's about finding a common ground. In the case of my two colleagues, uh, I wasn't in the position to act as a mediator. But in so many other cases during my career, I have seen firsthand the effectiveness of mediation, and it's something that I can just recommend everyone. I have helped people, individuals, married couples, or teams to communicate their needs and perspectives to each other. So it's very, very important and a very effective tool, because it ensures that each concerned individual is heard, and that those concerns, sorry, are addressed, and with the hope and the goal to facilitate the conversation, the dialogue between these two or more parties, with aim to find a mutual beneficial solution at the end of the day. That's the only purpose of mediation, to find a common ground and a solution that with which everyone is happy. So the question for us is today is, how does mediation work? And there's three main points, and Anja and I will discuss for you those points when I'm done with this part. The first one is necessary, and that's the task of a mediator, right? To create a safe and neutral environment, a place where people can speak their minds openly and express their opinions without fear of being criticized. That's very important. If people don't feel safe, if they are afraid of opening their mouths, then nothing will happen. Things will fester, and it will explode eventually. So that's very, very important. Secondly, uh, real and active listening is a must, right? Meaning, and that's also the task of the mediator, to facilitate real and active listening, because it is key that the parties involved put on the other person's shoes, right? They need to try on their shoes, and they try to understand what they are saying, even if they don't agree with each other. That's not the point. The point is not to really agree with each other, but to find common ground and find a solution. And then thirdly is to assist people in identifying their needs, and then finding a way to move forward together in a united manner. So, as closing up my section here, is mediation is in its simple form, is not just a method of resolving conflicts, but is in fact a process of personal growth. And that's what our podcast is all about, right? It's personal growth. So when people navigate through conflicts in life in a conductive environment, they not only resolve the immediate issue, but also they build stronger and more cohesive teams. That's very important to keep in mind, because we've moved from a situation of potential disaster to one of positive change. So mediation in that sense allows people to take, number one, responsibility for their part in the conflict, and then of course to find their own solutions. You do not give a solution. You just facilitate and you help people find solutions, which in turn, of course, enhances also a sense of accountability, right? It shows the value of open communication and increases trust between the team members, because without trust, you can forget about it. Nothing will work. So trust in the team will improve communication, and it's a positive domino effect. So and this is the one thing I want to emphasize for leaders, right? Mediation is consistent with the leader's responsibility to build up other people, right? It's consistent with building other people up. It improves team's performance and inspiration. You will be able to inspire effectively your team. So as you navigate life, whether that is in the personal arena or in the professional area of your life, remember that conflicts are something that cannot be avoided. That's just a part of life. But also at the same time, we need not to be afraid of them. We cannot avoid them, but we must not be afraid of conflicts. Instead, we have to see them as an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to connect. And finally, when conflicts do arise, bear in mind that meditation is at your disposal anytime. So that's my take on meditation, Anja.
Yeah, thank you for this intro into mediation. Can you give us maybe an example of how you would have handled the situation with your colleagues, or maybe you have a real life situation, you were the person, the mediator, and how that, do you have a good
Yeah.
example?
Well, the first, I think that the way to go is trust has to be there. So you usually has to begin with the parties involved, and uh, that's usually the optimal way. If they notice there is a conflict, they should try to solve the problem among them, right? They should talk to each other. If that doesn't work for whatever reason, then they should go and find in this case, usually the team leader or the leader, they look for a dialogue, a conversation, not backstabbing or not, not talking behind the back of someone, because the purpose is always to find a solution, to heal something, right? So if the motivation is correct, they will go to the team leader and present the situation and talk about what is happening, and be open about it. Like tell the other party, you know what, this is not working. We are not communicating. We are not making any progress. So I'm gonna go and talk to. Is that okay with you? Because we need help. We need to solve this problem, and that usually helps because no one likes surprises, right? If you go and then the other party realize, wow, you told someone this, it could be problematic. So be open about it. So like, you know what, I want to find a solution. It seems that we don't move forward. We're not able to make progress. I'm going to talk to, like we say in German, what do you say? Unter vier Augen, so in private. We're going to talk in private, and present my version of the situation, my side of the story, and then usually what the leader does is that it will talk to the other uh, party and find out what his or her version of the situation is, and then bring them together. But they have to agree to get to meet. That mediation does not work if one of the two parties does not agree to talk. In that case, it's probably too late. It's probably too late if they don't want to talk to each other. If they, which was the case, for example, in the example I gave, a real life example. One of my colleagues had resigned. So like, forget it. I'm not going to work in this type of environment. It's too much. She found a better job, better paying. I don't know how it went later on, but at that point in life, it seemed a better solution for her. It was too bad for us because I really liked her. She was highly skilled. I worked with her very smoothly, and we understood each other very well. It was just, and as well as my other colleague, and together they would have been a powerhouse, really a powerful team. But somehow their human differences got in the way. So that would be my approach. And of course, as a leader, if you notice something is happening, you have to be a little proactive, maybe, just to stay on top of things. Maybe chit chat and talk to people. I notice I noticed some tension, something happening. Anything I can do for you? You want to talk about it? Take the first step. Sometimes people are afraid to talk to you, or and that's also bad. If they don't trust you as a leader, then there is some work you have to do in that sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answer your question, but that would be my approach, my initial approach. Of course, the process of mediation is a longer one.
Yeah.
It's not just let us sit once, and it might be something that will take a few sessions.
Are there some rules? I know from my experience in mediation, it's important to also start the conversation with a few rules. For example, to create the safe space, we don't point fingers.
Mm-hmm.
That's the rule. What would be other rules to create that safe space so both so the solution is at the core? I think
Right.
that's also important because oftentimes when the conflict is as big as this, it's not easy for the person or for the two people or more people to stay objective. So how can you help as the facilitator, as the mediator, to create that safe space so that the solution is in the center? Yeah.
Right. Well, the rules, I mean, there are some basic rules, some common sense rules, right, to the whole thing, like the one you just mentioned, not. And what I encourage people always to do is never to use this you type of language, right? That's very, very, very important, because if you start using that language, that usually raises a barrier, and it will make the divide even bigger, because no one wants to feel accused,
Mhm.
especially especially before we even get started.
Yeah.
So that's a very difficult one, instead of to get into that language, but instead of you did this, so like, well, I felt that this wasn't done. I'm just speaking up the top
Yeah.
of my head, right? So avoiding that is very important, but also it's very important to include the parties in the rules. I mean, they have to agree on how they are going to
Mhm.
um, lead the discussion, that type of language, how long, what is the purpose, and so on and so forth. So
So
that
should
was,
you ask them? Like, should they make the rules, maybe?
in a sense, you propose, it's okay, when are we going to meet? How long is it going to be? Um, um, what do you need for this conversation? What is important to you to keep the conversation going? And so on and so forth. And that's usually sparks a conversation. They speak about their needs and what's important to them. And that in and of itself is just an exercise for compromise, right?
Mhm.
Because they had to agree.
Mhm.
They had to agree on those rules. So later on, if one of them are uh, broken, you know, those are their rules.
Yeah.
They have to abide by their own rules.
Yeah.
If they don't, well, it's pretty bad.
What yeah, what do you do when one of those rules is broken as the facilitator?
Well, just call their attention towards that. So
Mm.
like, I mean, it usually helps if you have maybe if you have a chart written and signed by them themselves. Well, actually, every time there is an official mediation session, there has to be an agreement, and it has to be
Mhm.
signed
Mhm.
by them. Uh, so that's that. And I mean, you have, this is not um, an official advice to anyone. So you have to check that out for yourselves and how everyone will go about it in a corporation. But we're just talking about principles on how that works, right? But a written agreement is important, and sometimes it helps if you have that in a chart type of setting. So it's always present when the session is going on. So usually, sometimes it just helps when you go and point at the chart. Right. Yeah. Take a look. Yeah. And people are like, oh my goodness. Yeah. It takes a while for them to get used to it, but they come around.
Great. Thank you very much. We're already coming to an end of this episode. It's gone so fast. Thank you so much for all the wisdom you shared with us. Is there anything, a last word you want to say and you want to give our listeners to think about or to?
Well, it's always important to hear. I should have mentioned that at the beginning, right? To send us your comments. What challenges do you face as a leader? That will be my number one. Just write us a comment and let us know what kind of a challenge do you face at this time in life, maybe, or often as a leader, right? And the other thing is just encourage you. There are books, there is literature regarding mediation, counseling, and things like that. You might want to find a coach that will help you, a certification even, that will help you be a mediator, because that's just a fact of life. Conflicts are part of where humans are. There will be conflicts. So the sooner the better to learn. If you learn how to deal with those, especially in a leadership position. So I just encourage you to research, find help if you need it, and send us your questions. If we can help you in anything, Anja and I will be more than happy to do that.
Yes, absolutely. And not just in a traditional leadership position, but also in family. I mean, conflict happens in families too. Maybe you're the parent and the kids are fighting, and maybe that would help too. Some of the mediation rules or practices could help there too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe you're in a relationship, that would also maybe help. Yeah, it's a very, very important and helpful superpower to have in any relationship. So thank you everyone for listening, and we're excited for next time. See you soon. Have a blessed and successful week.
Bye-bye.